Hey Victor, just wanted to show you those couple things with nodal. So we're looking at the Whitson software. I've got a Marcellus well here, and we have some production data, of course. So we've got, 2 years of production data. We've got our gas rates, water rates. We have casing pressure. There's no tubing in this particular well yet. And it looks like the initial gas rate was like 30 million a day. In 2 years, we're down to 7 million a day about here. Okay. And for our wellbore, we've got our deviation survey. We just imported this from WellView. And then, the casing size and stuff is also from WellView. So this is where you would just automatically import all your wellbore details, either from WellView or from Harmony. We can import the HLDB file as well. And yeah, so that's kind of the wellbore details. We need to figure out what the bottom hole pressures are. So we just say calculate bottom hole pressure. It takes the surface pressure, converts it to the bottom hole pressure, and we get different colors, and the colors are representing different pressure loss correlations that you might use. And I think I mentioned the paper we did last year where we had 600 wells with permanent downhole gauges to see which of these correlations are the most reliable, and the ones that came out the best were the green one and the red one. But you can pick whichever one you want. And if you, yeah, I don't think you guys have any downhole gauges, but if you do, you can import the gauge data and then automatically tune these correlations to the gauge data so that they're even more accurate. Okay, so just as a preview, there's companies like Devon, who and lots of other ones who every night the new production data will be imported into Whitson, and the new bottom hole pressures will be calculated every day automatically. So you're always seeing the up-to-date calculated bottom hole pressure. And you can even get these sent out to Spotfire using an API, so you can view all these results updated in Spotfire if you want as well. Now, is the well liquid loaded? So here we can see our actual gas rate in red, and then our critical lift rate. In this case, it's Turner. We have some other ones, but we are basically above the critical lift rate, even with casing, until just about recently. It looks like we might be starting to liquid load now. So that's just a quick look at this well. And if you have hundreds of wells, you can just click next, next, next up here and see this for each well. Next, we want to do nodal analysis. So we'd skip down to the bottom like this, and we instantly see our current IPR and outflow curve. I know in Harmony they call it a TPC, we call it a VLP, and this is just taking a snapshot. It's automatically grabbing the most recent day of production history from the well right here, and just sampling that as kind of the drawdown, the productivity of the well that's most recent. And so that sample of the rate and calculated bottom hole pressure that day is basically this operating point here, and then we have our IPR. So this is how the well is operating right away. Now we see the dashed and solid part of the VLP. That's just whether we're above or below the critical lift rate. So we're just about to liquid load. So some things we want to consider are like lowering the surface pressure, trying some different tubing sizes, annular flow, things like that. So if we just want to consider lowering the casing pressure, maybe down to 400 pounds, we'll just say, call this lower casing head pressure. And we have this new VLP, so that would almost double our rate, and we could produce down to an even lower rate before we liquid load. What about installing some tubing? So maybe we'll put 2 7/8 tubing flow, and here we'll land it at 7,000 feet, and we'll pick 2 7/8, 6.4 pound, and we'll flow up the tubing. You can have lots of different flow paths. Okay. So we'll just try that one here, and we'll keep our water gas ratio the same. Okay, so the yellow line, we're going to slightly back up production a little bit from casing, just because of the friction in the tubing, but we're going to avoid liquid loading down to a very low rate. So you could also try 2 3/8, or let's try annular flow here. So we'll call this 2 7/8 annular flow. Do the same thing. Here we'll change it from tubing to annular flow, like that. Okay, and we get the blue VLP, which is not going to back out the well as much, less friction, and we can delay liquid loading down to this particular rate here. So this is just how you can super, quickly see these different sensitivities and stuff like that. I don't know if it's as important to you, but there's also a pressure gradient calculator that will let you calculate what the pressure is all the way from the wellhead down to the toe of the well. So here we can see measured depth versus calculated pressure, and you can start to separate how much of that is from friction, how much of that is from gravity. Now, just on the fact that we're looking at a snapshot of today, you may want to do a look back, and that's where you could say, go ahead and tell me what the conditions were, back, at this date right here, and it would sample that, and then if we say save, everything is going to update, and we see our IPR was a bit stronger back then, and all the VLPs are just updating here. Okay, and we can see that that's a snapshot at this particular date. Okay, so that's just a quick show of how you can kind of do this one well at a time. The other thing you wanted to look at was kind of mass reporting liquid loading for wells. So I'll show you what that looks like. So in this case, I happen to have, I think, 27 Marcellus wells. And let's imagine that I have all my data imported, but I haven't done the bottom hole pressures on any of these wells yet. So what you could do is you could batch run the bottom hole pressures like this. Yes, and it's done. Okay, that's how fast it was. That's because we're running on the cloud, and so basically we now have all the information. We know the bottom hole pressure for each well. We can figure out if we're liquid loaded or unloaded for these wells. So you would go over to results, liquid loading. It's going to take just a second to update. Now in this case, you don't have to just look at the most recent day. You can take like the last 10-day average in case there's some ups and downs to see if you're liquid loaded. And so I'll just sort these here a little bit. Okay, so what we're doing, we're just reporting which wells are liquid loaded or not. We're seeing the current gas rate, what the critical minimum rate is needed to lift liquids at either the end of tubing or the perfs, whatever you want to pick, and then how much we're either short by in terms of being above or below the critical rate, or how much we're exceeding the critical rate by. So this is something you could do as often as you want. If you're connected to your daily rates and pressures, this will always be up to date, and you can just click refresh and it will show you which wells are liquid loaded. You can even bubble map all these results as well on the GIS that's in here. So that's kind of it. That's the quick and dirty part of it. So hopefully that gives a quick little preview. Thanks.